Welcome to Community Conversations. I am Miss Ebony J, the Queen of Queens. You're listening to 1230 The Buzz, your talk station on 101.5 The Buzz of Cincinnati, 101.1 The Wiz, and 100.3 Cincy's R&B station. This is Community Conversations, where we come to talk about the things happening in our community and how nonprofit organizations are making a difference. And I have here with me today Mr. Frank O'Farrell. He is the king behind an organization that is helping young people make films. How are you doing, King?
I am well, thank you very much. Thank you for having me on this morning. It's awesome.
Yes, I'm so glad to have you here. I mean, I love the great things that you're doing over at your business. Can you tell us how you got started?
Yeah, sure. So the name of the business originally was actually called Stages for Youth when we started it. So some people may have heard of that, ages and ages ago. And then a couple of years ago, we actually changed the name to Fourth Wall Youth Studio. So in our young history, we've already had two names. So one of the reasons I started this was actually, it was kind of personal a little bit. I have children of my own, and one of my children was struggling in high school, struggling quite a bit. And as a parent, sort of went through that process with him, kind of realizing, he's just one of these kids that doesn't kind of fit in a traditional school environment. It's just not working for him, right? And I'm sure there's tons of parents out there with the exact same thing. And but he's a really bright kid. He's a really creative kid. He has a lot to offer this world. He has this weird way of looking at things that's just so unique, But his GPA started to suffer a lot, and his attendance started to suffer, and he started to get into a lot of trouble. And, some of the times what we do when we have kids who struggle, what we do is we focus on the thing that they're struggling with, which is their grades. And then we tend to be a lot in our community, a little bit more punitive about how we deal with that. If the grades are low, then we say, well, you can't out this weekend. And the grades continue to say, well, you can't do any sports after school. And if the grades continue to be low, then you're going to be in detention, right? And sometimes in some kids, the grades are just not getting up. They're just not getting better. And after a while, what the kid is experiencing is like, they're not experiencing anything positive in their life. They're not completing anything because the only thing that they're being told is good is grades. And if the grades are not good, then they're not good. And they start to feel like they're a failure. And then that can lead to like low self-esteem and poor performance and everything else. So my background was in film. And I thought, well, wait a minute. I'm in film. I've been pretty successful. I've got some really great jobs in a professional environment. My grades were terrible in school. And I went to college for a little while, but I dropped out of college and my grades were really bad. And I thought, well, what if I take that experience that I have in film and offered that to young people who are struggling and say, there's this industry out there. It's called the creative economy. It's filmmaking, it's graphic design, it's audio production, audio engineering, it's writing, advertising, marketing. And honestly, we don't care that much about your GPA. I mean, it's important that if you've got a good one, awesome. If you don't have a good one, that's not going to stop you from getting a job. And if you went to college, that's great. If you didn't go to college, that's not really all that important. Mm-hmm. And we really don't care about that you went to a really fancy college or really expensive college, It's really about who you are as a person and what you can bring to the table, how passionate you are. Can I work with you? Like, are you a good team player? Can I see you working for me and the team? That's kind of what we look for, right? Because that's what the business is going to require. So I started a program to say, hey, let's bring some of those skills to these kids and some of this opportunity to these kids that they may not know exists in the workplace, and hopefully get them on the path maybe to a brighter future and get their hope up.
How long has Fort Wall Youth been around?
Sure. Well, we started the program originally in 2015. In Northside, where I live, and it was originally just a summer camp program. And then over the last few years, we've sort of evolved the program into other other areas to serve kids. And also sort of along the way, we've discovered some other problems that it solves that actually when we started out, we didn't really know existed.
Problems
So,
like what?
well, when it was sort of focusing a little bit on my own career. For a while, not so working at a fashion design company called Hugo Boss. And they're a pretty well-known fashion company out of Germany, and then they have a big presence in New York. And it was a pretty good job, you know. I was managing their whole website for North America, and when they hired me, they said they wanted a college degree, undergraduate degree, and they also wanted a master's degree. That was their preference. Well, I didn't have either, but they hired me. And when I asked them why, they said, well, you were working in this film business, and all the skills you learned, like collaboration and teamwork and problem solving and being creative and innovative, thinking on my feet, working with people from different backgrounds, you know, being really attentive to schedules and timing and deadlines. They said, that's exactly what we're looking for. So it doesn't matter you don't have a degree. It doesn't matter that you only went to college for a couple of years. That's what we need. So I thought, oh,
Wow.
so there's another problem here. And so the skills that kids need when they graduate that are not academic skills. It's the ability to communicate effectively orally and in a written form. It's the ability to collaborate, and it's the ability to be creative, and it's the ability to be a critical thinker. So and there's a whole list of, there's about 17 or 18 of these types of skills that employers use as a benchmark to grade how good an potential employee will be when they come to work for that company. And unfortunately, our graduating students, not just from high school, but from college, get a failing grade for these skills. Only 30% of employers feel that graduating college students have the skills necessary to sort of sustain the success in that company,
right.
Which is what that was a real eye opener. It's like, what? Only 30% of students are passing academic skills test. And then looking at film and going, well, wait a minute, well, film, if you are successful in making movies, you are inherently learning all of these skills. So even if you decide not to work in film anymore, that's okay. These skills are now transferable to any industry that you want to work in, because that's what employers are telling us, that get these skills into these kids' repertoire, into the resume, because we need them throughout industry.
Now, how receptive are the kids to actually the program and learning these skills? Because, you know, they do have to come up with ideas to put the film together. They have to work together. How does that work out?
It works out really, really well. I mean, the kids are creative, right? They're always coming up with stories of their own. They just are never asked to like, well, okay, well, why don't we write that story all the way out? And then why don't we go make it on film, and we'll do it in a professional way. So, and kids love film. I mean, they watch films all the time. They watch TV shows all the time. So it's part of their like normal entertainment. So it's not a big jump for them to go and say, hey, yeah, well, let's make one, you know? And the thing about filmmaking is we're not like telling them, here are the 21st century skills you're learning. And they're just making films. And through that fun process of making films, they're learning those skills anyway. And it's almost invisible to them. And then when they leave the program, when they're done with their film camp or they're done with the after school or whatever, then we say, okay, let's look at your resume. And then I'll ask them, I say, hey, when you were making a film, did you solve any problems? And they look at me and go, any problems? Are you kidding? We solved it. It's like all we did is we solved problems all day long as we try to make this movie. And then I say, well, you could put that on your resume. Adept at solving problems. And an employer is going to look at that, go, oh, that I need someone who can solve problems, and not always ask, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? You know, they can think on their feet and think for themselves. So when we're done with a program, we deconstruct their whole experience with us, and then take those 21st century skills that they've been learning, and then tell them how to word it and transfer it over to the resume. So they enjoy that piece of it. I think the other sort of problem we uncovered, it's not so much a problem, it's a state, is the the diversity in the creative economy, or the lack of diversity in the creative economy. So what we know from, Hollywood is that there's not a lot of non-white representation in Hollywood, particularly behind the camera, what we would call behind the scenes. So that would be like directors, cinematographers, lighting directors, audio people, writers, producers, stuff like that. So, it's getting better in the last couple of years, particularly in 2018 and 2019. I mean, me, when I grew up, I was in my early 20s. Some of my favorite directors were like Spike Lee or Robert Townsend or John Singleton, and these are all Black directors doing like Boys in the Hood and stuff like that, or Hollywood Shuffle. But that was like it. It was like 3 of them, Right. And it stayed like that for a very long time. And it's only very recently that we've, had a few more, certainly, we've had Latino directors like Alfonso Cuarón, who did Gravity and, Roma and stuff. But that has low representation. And now we have some new directors, like Tyler Perry. So it's starting to shift and starting to change. We even have some, wonderful directors starting to, which is always kind of good. It's one of my favorite, then Steve McQueen as well. So it's good to see sort of those changes happening, but the actual percentage change that's going on right now in Hollywood is actually minuscule. We're hearing about these directors, but there's actually not a lot of diversity in Hollywood right now. So 2018, of the top grossing films in 2018 in Hollywood, 7% were directed by women, just 7%. But 50% of our population are women, So there's quite a disconnect. It should be higher, right? Yeah. And then if we look at our population, or of color population in the country, it's about 40%, give or take. But only about 19% of the films were directed by non-white directors. So there's a huge disconnect there. And in 2019, although the number of women directors went up, the number of directors of color actually down.
Wow.
Now, you wouldn't know the press releases and the reports and everything, but it actually dropped down to about 14% from 19%. And then when you go into producers and directors, it's basically 93% white and 80% male, when you get into the executive level. So even though things are trending upward, it's been a long road, a long journey, and a long way to go. So what our hope is, is that we can start to get young people of color, of diversity, those with, disabilities, those of low income, those who are Black, those who are Latino, and start to get them interested in the industry early, behind the scenes, so that, a little bit later, they now become the directors of the future. They either, do programs like Fourth Wall or other, non-college programs, or they go into college and they are the ones who start to make the change in those percentages, sort of significant changes. But we have to offer a way in for these kids in order to have a good outcome 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Tyler Perry's doing a great job. He's in Georgia, right? He's in Atlanta, and he has a Georgia Film Academy. And that's what he does. He takes college students, a little older than our students, right? And he puts them through a rigorous course in the Georgia Film Academy, so that if somebody says, hey, there's not enough Black candidates applying for my job, what can I do? He'll go, hold on a second, right? And he'll say, hey, welcome to my Georgia Film Academy. I've got some good candidates for you, right?
Right.
So there is a tremendous amount of work left to do in that, right? So we're going to continue to work in that space.
I love it. You just, making room for them to be creative and think another way and break the ceiling. I love it.
There's a lot of barriers, that these kids experience. I mean, if you're low income and you want to go to a film program, and my film program is downtown, how are you going to get there? You don't have a car, you're a single parent household, your mom or your dad is busy, can't get you there, you don't have any siblings, or they're working, and the bus takes an hour and a half to get you there and an hour and a half to get you back. That's not easy, right? So, we're starting now to go out to communities and serve them there and say, okay, well, let's remove that barrier. And how do I get a job if I don't have experience? How do I get experience if you don't have a job? All right, well, come to fourth wall. We'll give you experience, right? And then we'll help you a job, right? So, but there's a lot of barriers, right? Those are just a couple. So over time, we're just trying to, gradually knock them down. So.
It's 12:30 Will, your talk station on 101.5, 101.1, The Wiz, and 100.3 Cincy's R&B station. I am Miss Ebony J here talking with Mr. Frank O'Farrell. We're talking about Fourth Walls, the Youth Studio. It's a nonprofit organization that helps young people become filmmakers. And what I love about this program is that they offer a variety of different services. Can you share some of the things that you all do?
Oh, sure. So we started as summer camps only. Just in the summertime, we had, kids would come and they would make a short film in a period of 2 weeks. And they would walk in the door. They didn't know each other, complete strangers. And they have a blank page. They have no story, no script, no experience. But by the time they left the program 2 weeks later, they would be what we like to call a well-oiled machine with a finished film.
Wow.
So that's where we started. And then we
2 weeks?
In 2 weeks, 60 hours. And we teach everything, right? Coming up with the story, writing the script, then they form teams and they have to collaborate together to make the script. They do the whole production planning. They learn how to use cameras. They hire actors. They do location scouting. They release forms, talent release forms. Everything that you would do on a professional level, we are teaching these kids at the age of 14, 15, 16, 17, and sometimes younger than that in junior high. Then we teach them how to edit, and then they go edit their program. And it's really funny that by the end of the 2 weeks, they literally have to have their film done by 3 o'clock on the second Friday. No ifs, ands, or buts. They have to do it. And it's so funny watching these kids just pulling their hair out and screaming like, we've only got 10 minutes left, we've only got 10 minutes left. And it's really fun to see them get so impassioned about that as they're working with this like high-end software that's used throughout the professional industry, and they're applying it to their film under pressure, under duress, with a team of colleagues who are all on the same film. So it's really kind of fun.
Now, how different is the after-school program from the summer program?
So the after-school program is a lot more time. They're not doing 60 hours, in 2 weeks. They're just coming after school when they're available and when they're free. But it allows them to, what we don't want to do is say, hey, there's a great summer camp and you had a lot of fun, and then just sort of walk away from these kids.
Right.
If they say, well, I'm really interested in this, what do I do next? I don't want my answer to be, I don't know. You figure it out. I want to give them the what's next. So the after school program is the what's next. So it moves a little more slowly. They can focus on certain areas that they might like, because when they make a short film, they're getting exposed to like all of these different possible careers, within just the making of that short film. So the after school program is a way for them to maybe get into more detail on that. They decide, I really like audio. Can I just explore audio?
Right.
Absolutely. Or I really like writing, screenwriting. Can we just do that? Or I really like camera operation. Could I just? And then at the beginning of 2019, what we said was, okay, if you're really good at this and you really want to do it, we're going to get you a job in it as a high schooler. So high schoolers came back to Fourth Wall and interned with Fourth Wall on paid projects. They got paid $10 an hour to work on Fourth Wall projects. And what we did was we went out and we found clients for them, like real clients. So this is real projects, real work for real clients. This is not like any mock business. Yes. Right? So now this is like the real deal, and they're only 15 and 16 years of age. And they would do PSAs, they do marketing videos, advertisements, and they would like literally work with the client. They would learn how to they would learn about how to write a creative brief, how to schedule with a client, how to work a meeting. You know how many kids graduate from college and they've never been even in a conference room? Not even in a conference room. Our kids are coming out of Fourth Wall knowing how to write agendas, to do takeaways, to do creative briefs, to schedule, to do follow-ups, the whole nine. All that stuff that you're going to do when you're working, they're learning at Fourth Wall. So that's been really, really successful and a lot of fun. And then at the end of 2019, the last piece of it was a College Credit Plus program. I teach at UC part-time, so I would have high school students collaborate with college students on my college class. And in return for that, for attending and being part of that team, they're eligible for college credit, which then could be applied to UC. So literally, as a sophomore in high school, they could have 3 credit hours ready to go at UC for working on a film. So those are the programs.
I like that. So it's like a prerequisite. They've already done it, they're able to transfer it over.
Right. Exactly.
Oh, this is truly amazing. What's next for Four Walls Youth Studios? I mean, you're truly making an impact with these babies. What do you plan to do next?
Well, I hope to keep up the same work that we've been doing. Some of the outcomes have been really good already for some of our students. We're privileged to have worked with students now that came to us at 15 years of age and now are 20, right? And some of those 20-year-olds are in college now, in film school. We've had kids from Fourth Wall go to colleges like SCAD, DePaul, Columbia, Arizona State, UC, Xavier. And that's really cool to see that they're using their Fourth Wall portfolio to actually get into college, which is really fun. In 2016, some of our students won, we entered the films into film festivals. Okay. And one of the film festivals we entered into was 2016 at White House. That's the White House. It was the last couple of months of the Obama administration. And they had this festival where students are invited to submit their films from all over the world. And 2 of our films won the film festival. So if that's not good enough, all 7 of the kids then got invited to the White House. And they had a private audience with President Obama, and they met stars from Hollywood, producers, directors. They met the whole cast and the crew from Stranger Things, which is a show on Netflix.
Yeah.
Which was pretty wonderful. And then they got celebrated by the city, and they had a plaque in their honor from the city of Cincinnati. So that was a really highlight. That was a pretty huge deal, And what was really cool is out of those 7 kids, 4 of them were girls and 3 of them were boys. Right, which goes against the grain of the industry. And on top of that, 4 of them or 5 were African American, and 2 were Latino, which also goes against the grain. It was proud enough to see, like, hey, these kids did really good work, and they got recognized for it. 2 of those kids now joined up with another Fourth Wall student and opened their own production company, and it's called X-Win Films. They're all 17. They're all black, young black men, and they're out there making it. They're doing it right now. They've opened the doors, they've hung their shingle, and they are doing paid gigs at 17 years of age in film.
I love it.
It's pretty beautiful. It's pretty beautiful to watch.
It's in their car and they're listening.
Yep.
Strolling on the internet, they just happen to see this interview. They know a young person who wants to learn. What makes you eligible?
First thing is you just want to go to our website, look around, and then you can just fly me off an email and tell me what you want, and we'll find something for you. When we have camps coming up, we'll put registration forms up there, and they can just information, and then work through them that way. So there's nothing really fancy or nothing really difficult. We're a pretty sort of casual organization, and we don't want to be too intimidating, right? So, and then we'll work with them, and hopefully, like Xander and Jeremiah and Kenny, we'll work with them for a long time, not just a summer camp, but for years.
Yeah.
And I send Xander and the crew work. I send them clients still today. So that's fun to see. So yeah, we'll go on the journey together. See what we can do.
Well, make sure you log onto the website, fourthwallcincy.org, fourthwallcincy.org, get more details, learn more. And can they make a donation, right, on the website?
Yes, absolutely. Right? Thank you for calling that out. Yes, we certainly need every penny we can get to do more of this work. We need to give a pathway to our kids, right?
Well, thank you again for coming in. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much. I love being here, and thanks for doing what you do, too, getting the word out. Much appreciated.
If you ever need to come back, just let me know.
Will
1230 The Buzz, your talk station on 101.5, 101.1 The Wiz, and 100.3 Cincy's R&B station. This is Community Conversation. If you would like to learn more, make sure you visit our website so you can learn more about this organization. See you next week.